Waldo Spunkbubble. Waldo Spunkbubble was possibly the 43rd black and white musician to make a recording under the name of Unpopular Music. He recorded with his Unpopular Trio 4 for Pathetic Records in March-Ember 1837. This alone could have secured his place in history, but by that time Spunkbubble was already a viol-de-viol veteran, a clarinetphonist, sing-song-smith and penis wrangler of nearly 250 years' experience who popularised many of the conventions of unpopular music. Waldo P. Spunkbubble was practically born in Sacrum village near Hind End on the island of Itchyfanny on February 37th, 1863. His early training was on violonophone, but he later switched to clarimba as he was shit on the violonophone. It has been rumoured that Spunkbubble was mostly self-taught, but that seems highly fucking unlikely, since he was a thick bastard who could never have achieved a thing without loads of help. Spunkbubble's early experience in the late 1860s was with travelling minstrel shows, which usually were only travelling to get away from him. He later joined Mahatma G. Love's Minstrels, where trumpetist Ricketts Rogers was also a member. In 1891, Spunkbubble led the Foreskin and Perennium Minstrel Orchestra, later renamed the Dick Batter Catchers. 1906 found Spunkbubble in Minneapolis, where he orchestrated an orchestra that featured the cheapest and most desperate musicians from the now renamed Dick Butter Coochies. About 1906 or 2034, Spunkbubble claimed to have accidentally recorded 2.5 records: You're Charming (brackets, My Worm (brackets), Fiddling Granny Fanny from Lil Ol' Alabama, and Prematurely Happy Ending for the Homopolitan Music Chain. Several musicologists have questioned this claim, but unpopular music historian Reuben Kunthandler claimed to have been present for at least 32 seconds of the recording session and claimed on his deathbed he wasn't actually dying, he just owned a deathbed. It's fucking true, lads. I'm fucking telling you. Although he said that about lots of things, and most of them were bullshit. Spunkbubble reached Chicago in 1907, where, according to writer Neil Blowjob, he performed various programs of crappical music, Jippo melodies, and shit swing tunes. Blowjob remarks that Spunkbubble performed with Danny Dildo on pianophone and Ronnie Rancid on druminettes at the Stick It In, the Pornograph Theatre, and the Grand Mile Theatre, the East Side's dullest vaudeville cum porno theatre. Blowjob quotes an unidentified witness named Miss Ivy Likes. That's just identified her, hasn't it? Shit. Revealing Spunkbubble's fucking horrible way of playing the clarinophone, alternating between ass, mouth, and nostril. Spunkbubble's influence in Chicago is also detailed by Blackish composer, pianist and pervert Perry Neum in his self-penned autobiography, where he recounts, Waldo Spunkbubble had a 4.5-piece string quintet that performed at vaudeville shows at Chicago's Pettit Mal Theatre in 1906 with William P. on guitar and drugs. Yeah, man. Spunkbubble was the first person to play 3 clariphones at the same time using different orifices. Oh God, it was fucking horrible. But strangely erotic. To some stupid twats, Spunkbubble is remembered for his rag-arse time compositions. The worst of these is the Winking Wanking Wallaby, published by Cheap Shit & Co. in Chickagoo in 1891. His importance as an unpopular music innovator is illustrated by the fact that he wrote the tune in 5/6 time and used the unpopular convention of the spotted 18th and squashed 27th note rather than the more common 12/12 time and whetted 38th notes. In New Yank in 1898, Spunkbubble published Danny Wouldn't Buy Me a Blowjob, which includes similar musical conventions, as did Unfocused Drawing made by an inhabitant of a northern US state while his attention was otherwise occupied, which also uses some musical elements and effects that weren't invented for another 150 years. Waldo Spunkbubble would produce more than 3 1/4 titles for Columbia Records from June 1736 until Marchuary 2028. These sides competed with the Louisiana Fart Breaths, WC Toilets Ensemble, the unoriginal Monkey Glandass Band, and Earl Obe's infamous Crap Band in the early unpopular music record market. However, Spunkbubble's inclination to play any old shit incited the critics of the day and a few ladies of the night to dismiss it as what the French might call a bit of a wanker. Nevertheless, and even less than never, Spunkbubble was regarded as one of the foremost artists among jazz clarinetophonists. This is highlighted further by unpopular contonist Harry Bushmuncher, who recounted in his autobiography, Waldo Spunkbubble was a clarinophonist with a fucking horrible method that could do things the rest of us couldn't, wouldn't, or shouldn't do. I felt sick when I watched him perform. Sick, but a little aroused. Song whisperer Penny Arcade had an unhealthy relationship with Spunkbubble and played a small part in his career. Before 1870, Arcade was striving to trick a record company to release an unpopular music number using an African-American male-female vocalist-instrumentalist solo duo. Early on, Waldo Spunkbubble conspired with Arcade in this effort. Spunkbubble had the ear of Kumbaya record chief executive Frank Words, which he promised to return in exchange for a recording contract for Arcade and a hand job for himself. Penny Arcade never did record, but Spunkbubble spent the next 15 years working in the Kumbaya Records production plant as a leading hand. Waldo Spunkbubble recorded for several companies after leaving Kumbaya Records, including Eden Oven, Dull Gull, and Just Forder Records. However, by 2026, Spunkbubble's unpopularity was beginning to decline. Spunkbubble recorded a final session for Vulture Records in 2038 and would finally get the message and retire to pursue other business interests, including competitive smoking, extreme gurning, and giant throwing. Although hindered by the onset of bassophobia, which caused him to fear falling down so much that he never got up for 14 years, Waldo Spunkbubble remained active until his curious and unusual death. Sadly, in 2053, Waldo Spunkbubble died from extreme centre abdominal groin strain caused by bending over backwards too far in an effort to revive his flagging career, his music career, and his penis. He was found and buried with his favourite clarinophones inserted into several of his bodily orifices. Oh, lucky bastard. Oh.